So Leinster play Munster at the Aviva this weekend. It might not be the full Leinster team. In fact, we're almost certain it won't be. And there's a few injuries for Munster as well. But we did decide that this was an opportunity for us to compare and contrast the relative fortunes of the teams at the moment by picking a combined 15. We know people love combined teams. It's one of their favourite things about sport, isn't it?
I wonder who's going to have more players in this team.
It could be 50-50 on it. Yeah, hard to tell.
Especially in the 15-man team.
Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Good. How many Leinster players in your combined 15 at the moment?
Oh, Jesus. About 12 or 13, I'd say. And that's not a big surprise to anyone, really. I'm kind of basing it off selection for the Six Nations, really. And lots of... I suppose lots of Munster people would be disappointed with the representation and the amount of Munster players that would have been on that Irish team. And but look, it's probably fair enough. And they proved themselves in November and in the Six Nations. So the only ones that are probably getting in are Ty Byrne. Ty Byrne and Andrew Conway were the ones for the Six Nations. I think if Conway is fit, he's probably getting into the team. Keith Earls maybe as well if he plays enough of games. The obvious candidates are Peter O'Mahony. I think the way he's played in the last couple of months and the season he's had this year, he's been outstanding. Conor Murray is not shifting Van der Fleer, but he's on the bench, so you kind of basing it off the Six Nations, but there's 12, 13 Leinster players in there.
I left Ty Byrne out of mine because he's not fit at the moment, so I'm kind of post European Cup quarter-final weekend.
Okay.
And so front row, all Leinster, right? To troll the Munster fans, I put Jenkins in second row.
All right.
That was just...
So 4 Leinster so far.
That's just being it. Exactly. Well, I don't know who the second row partner for James Ryan is after... I did say it, right, because Byrne's not fit, but Byrne's in the team if he's fit. Nailed on, 100%, guaranteed. He's definitely in the combined team. Of course, ex-Leinster too. But who would your second row be now, this week, if you had to pick a team?
It's probably Ross Molony, the way he's played against Toulouse and Leicester. I think Fineen Wycherley was really good, and Thomas Ahern when he came off the bench, and obviously he has huge potential. But if you're picking a team for, if it was a big game this week for a combined team, it would probably be Ross Molony, really. And it's...
Can we just get a moment to think about Ross Molony?
Just reality.
How has his game evolved to the point where, like, the skill set in the game against Toulouse the weekend, there was like the exact same pass where it's no look and it's straight to the breadbasket of whoever it's supposed to go to, and it's clear that they've practiced this a gazillion times, but it was like, wow, that's pretty good. They're like basketball skills for a big man. His evolution as a player, I think, is one of the biggest testimonies to the coaching ticket at Leinster, and also his hard work and him as an individual. So he's got to get a lot of credit for that. But he's on the fringes of Ireland selection at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I think his game has improved so much, I think, and always very talented and skillful. Would have shown that in his schools rugby and representing underage teams in Leinster. I just think he was kind of probably pigeonholed as being not the biggest second row and most physical second row in the world for a number of years, and look, I'm guilty of it too, picking this kind of athletic football line-out winner and then a bit of a kind of a brute and a physical type second row. But the game has evolved a lot as well, that it's all about pace and tempo now, and I think he's got bigger in himself. He's obviously grown. He's not a young fella. He's 27, and some players are a little bit later developing as well. I'm not saying that he wasn't developed at 21, 22, 23, but I think he's learned a lot. He looks more confident, and I think if he hasn't been selected in the big games over the years up until now. He's always been seen as a very valuable asset to the Leinster squad and played loads of league games. But you're talking about the skill set, Jaron. That's just repetition and it's footballing ability. And I'm sure he had that footballing ability in him. But just repetitive work around that area and trying to build his confidence as well. He's always been a brilliant line-out player and really intelligent in running a line-out, which is a great asset to any team. So if Leinster had a Brad Thorne or some type of player like that, or even Jenkins coming in, if Jenkins was there to start the year, would they have selected Ross Molony because of the perception around that physicality? So
yeah, I don't know.
In some ways, he's been selected because they've been kind of forced into that selection, really. Ryan Baird has been injured as well. So, and he's actually shown people, wow, this guy actually can deliver and play at this level. He's not the biggest second row in the world. And that sounds like a criticism. It's not. I think he's probably been pigeonholed in that bracket for a number of years, that he's not this big, strong brute. But I think he's grown, he's developed, he's got stronger. And looking at the work rate around the field and the tackles and obviously his skill set. So I think he deserves a massive credit, and I think he should go to New Zealand now, because he's shown people what he can do at the top level, and he can handle that physicality. It wasn't just the skills on Saturday. He was his tackle, reload, his work rate, his fitness levels, and I think he deserves massive credit for what he's done.
Is it fair to say that maybe there was like huge expectation, not huge expectation, but a certain degree of expectation on him at the very start? Like, he plays really well in a game against Bath in 2016. Leo Cullen is quite open in terms of managing his rise to the top. He talks about focusing quite a lot on the gym work, that maybe he just needed a couple of years, not away from the limelight, but I guess allowing Devon Toner and James Ryan to be kind of your two starting locks, and for kind of this guy to be developing away in the background. And maybe Leinster knew that this was going to happen a lot more than we would. Yeah,
there's certain players that they become excellent provincial players, and you think they're just sitting below on that level of being a top-class international and getting to that level. And sometimes unfairly, we kind of label them at that level, and they don't get the opportunity. You really rely on them, and that they're very good players, and you love playing with them. But they're just kind of in everyone's head. They're just that level below, and sometimes it is perception, and it's selection as well. If you're continuously getting called up into international level, you do get a kind of a status within the group that you're an international, and it can be very unfair at times. And there's loads of guys I would have played with that they would have been in that position that, oh God, they're brilliant players, they're unbelievable professionals, but they're not international. They're not getting called up to internationals because they're just that level below, that top level. So you can get kind of labelled and left in that group. But I think what I admire about what he's done is he's continuously kind of turned up for Leinster, even in those league games away to the Dragons or Edinburgh, on the Friday nights or the Sundays through the internationals the last number of years. He continuously turns up and plays really well. So I think his level of performance, he's just taken it another level, and he has got stronger. And some guys, again...
Can he keep Jenkins out of the team next season?
Well, the way he's playing at the moment, if he continues in that level, and I think his perception will have changed, so he'll have a different swagger about him if he finishes the season strong and they win a European Cup and the URC and he goes to New Zealand. Well, then it's a totally different perception that everybody has of him going forward. So you don't know, we don't know where Jenkins is either, to be honest. He hasn't played that really well for Munster. He's shown glimpses. He's a big, big man. I'm sure they'll try and improve him in certain areas, particularly for a big fella in the physical stakes. He probably needs to get to a different level and use his strength and size. But Ross Molony, I think, has been brilliant and he deserves credit.
Okay, the back row, Caelan Doris 6, Josh van der Fleer 7, Jack Conan 8 is the Leinster back row. Who from Munster gets in that at the moment?
Well, Peter O'Mahony's injured for this weekend, but I just think in November, I'd be going for Doris, Conan, van der Fleer. 3 exceptional players, unbelievable balance to that back row. But I just think the way Mahony's played in the last few months against far more pressure than the Leinster back row would have been under. I think he has to get in there somewhere.
6?
Maybe it's 6, and Jack Conan loses out and goes to the bench like he did for some of the latter part of the Six Nations, which is unfair because I've always stated I'm a Jack Conan fan and I think he's a great footballer, and it's been incredible to see him get the best out of himself in the last couple of years. After maybe a Ross Molony type number of years, if you like, he's taken that step up and been brilliant and went in the line. So it's very unfair. Very little separating them. But I think, like, it isn't Munster bias. I think even the Leinster fans would admit O'Mahony has been exceptional. You know, the Exeter games, the turnovers against Toulouse, under so much pressure. I think he's been phenomenal, and he's played really well for Ireland as well. So he's had a really, really consistent year, Peter O'Mahony. So he's probably the only one that in that back row that can challenge that situation. Hopefully Kendellen, John Hodnett and these guys, Gavin Coombs, can put a bit more pressure and push themselves into Irish recognition next year.
Yeah, and with the Maori midweek games, you'd hope they all go, and Jack O'Donoghue.
Jack O'Donoghue has been exceptional as well. So, but you know, top class internationals. I just look at the players I played. I was trying to get into an Irish team in 2009, the Grand Slam. Heaslip, Leamy, Wallace, Ferris. Phenomenal players, and just sometimes they're just at a level. You think of Sean O'Brien, and the power of these guys. You know, this Leinster back row are kind of up at that level. They're that good.
Yeah,
they're that powerful. They're that balanced. So sometimes there's good players underneath are just, unfortunately, they're going to be a bit unlucky, and if they wait for opportunities, whether through an injury or a little drop in form. But I just think O'Mahony has been brilliant this year. I don't know if you agree or disagree with me. I think, because I have to be, I want to be careful.
I think the last two O'Mahony performances, right? That completely changes the perception.
Yeah, it does. And but I think he's been very consistent this year in the games he's played as well. And it's not just coming up with an odd steal or in the line out or at the breakdown. I think he's tackling, he's carrying, everything has been on a different level for Peter O'Mahony.
Okay, so O'Mahony's the first player in the combined 15. After that, then the 9 and 10, I think there's no real room.
They picked themselves, yeah.
Yeah, so it's Gibson Park and Sexton, and then on the wing, James Lowe's in the team. But after that, does Zebo get in or does Earls get in? Earls gets in.
Jimmy O'Brien
ahead of Jimmy.
It's very difficult, and again, Jimmy O'Brien is on. He's one of those players. He's just been brilliant for Leinster this year, hasn't he? He was one of the nominees for the European Player of the Year after February. I think he got 4 tries against Bath, didn't he? His performance is exceptional. Work rate, tackle, kick chase, defensively rock solid. So he'd probably be arguing the same point about getting his opportunity to get up to international level, and he's someone who could go to New Zealand as well and probably deserves to go.
We need to bring 80 players to New Zealand. That's what we need to do.
Well, I tell you, if you look at Conway in the Six Nations, he was brilliant, and I think Ireland kind of sparked off his season. He wasn't that good for Munster pre-Christmas. Even November internationals, he was very, very good. He was brilliant. He just looked a different player when he played for Ireland. Obviously, he's had a few injuries and been very unlucky. We haven't seen him play in a while. And I think it fit Andrew Conway the way he was playing for Ireland. Challenges. Keith Earls, again, he's had a stop-start season with injury, but just his quality, it's hard to ignore that. So, James Lowe is on one wing for definite, and then you have a big debate about who you pick in the other wing if they're fit and healthy. Conway's hasn't played matches at the moment, so that maybe rules him out if you're picking the team, as you say, Ger, for this week. Very hard to leave Jimmy O'Brien out. I think Keith Earls is such a player, such a wonderful attitude to the game. But
so who are you picking?
I don't know.
Your team.
Well, just to get another Munster man in, I'll pick Earlsy, and Jimmy O'Brien won't be happy, but just to get another Munster player in.
Hugo Keenan's fullback, and no real need to talk about that, is there?
No.
Okay.
No debate whatsoever.
The only other place that I had somebody in, I had Dialende and Henshaw. But
well, there's one thing, and I was thinking about this as well. You just can't leave Dialende out. even though Henshaw and Gary Ringrose, exceptional players, exceptional combination. Maybe people will disagree, but I just think he's. So you can imagine if D'Allende was playing. You can imagine if D'Allende was playing in the Leinster team, Ger. Yeah. What he would do.
He'd be pretty
phenomenal.
Good.
Getting that quite a ball. He's been on the back foot a lot, and he still does unbelievably special things. He's so strong. His hands are so good. Who are you leaving out? You're leaving out Robbie Henshaw or Gary Ringrose. Well, for any of the guys left out, they're definitely coming off the bench very, very quickly. So there should be two. They're in the 23, shall we say. So there shouldn't be two. And there's another test the week after, so they might get a start there. I don't know. Well, I think D'Allende is the first centre, isn't he? So Robbie Henshaw can play 13. So maybe you're playing the Springboks or you're playing England and you're looking for physicality and you play the two of them together. You want that bit, the subtle skills and a bit of balance in the outside centre and more pace. Probably you're going with Ringrose.
So you've gone for Henshaw.
Who are you picking?
I picked Henshaw. But it's a toss-up.
Yeah, probably Henshaw. But
has D'Allende already signed for his next club, or can Leinster come in with last gasp effort, take Jenkins and D'Allende and make your dream a reality?
You never know. He might be going there. It's not my dream, Jesus, to see Damien D'Allende play for Leinster. I didn't want him to go in the first place for Munster because I do think think there'll be better things happening in Munster next year. They'll be better, hopefully. They have to be. And
you're a judge. You're the Irish judge for the European Player of the Year, Quinny. Do you tell us in advance who you're voting for, or is that like only after?
We genuinely haven't picked it yet, right. Ger, because we decide we kind of end up having we have a meeting the morning of the final in Marseille. So we have a breakfast and we have a conversation. We have a conversation about basically
a little croissant
before conversation.
A little croissant, yeah. We have a conversation really about the 5 players and their merits, and it's not decided till after the game.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, because you have to be fair. And really, the reality here is there was 15 players picked in February on a short list of moving forward into the kind of knockout stages. And realistically, you look back on the EPCR Player of the Years, they come from probably the winning team, or possibly they have to come from the finalists. Really, unless somebody has this crazy pool stages that they score tries in every game, get loads of man of the matches, and do the same right up to semi-finals or something like that. But historically, they've come from the winning team or maybe the losing side. So James Lowe has not come out of nowhere, but he wasn't in that original 15. I'll tell you who the original 15 were: Gregory Aldrich, Alex Dombrant, Caelan Doris, Dupont, Fiku, George Ford, Michael Lowry, Jimmy O'Brien, Jack O'Donoghue, 2 players we spoke about there, Damien Pennell, Semi Randrandra for Bristol, Sam Simmons, Marcus Smith, Josh van der Fleer and Cameron Woki. James Lowe wasn't in that group. And you have this wriggle room to add a player or two if they catch the eye, basically.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and it's like a great selector told me once that when I wasn't picked and it's a certain team that they voted for me, but the others didn't. I had James Ryan down on or James Lowe down on my shortlist in February.
Right.
Well, they didn't. But I just think he's been exceptional, and it doesn't matter. Look, you could have. There's lots of the other judges had different players down that you don't agree. We're only a percentage of the vote, then the public vote as well. So I think that's the good thing about this vote. It's a public vote, and then the judges, a certain percentage of our we make the final decision really at the end of it. But I think this public vote was very, very heavily weighed towards the public back in February, and it was difficult with the pool stage with COVID and everything like that. Yeah. But we're down to the final 5: Josh van der Fleer, Gregory Aldrich, James Lowe, Caelan Doris and Anton Dupont. People probably argued in February that Dupont had only played 1 or 2 games because of COVID, but I just think he got in there because Toulouse got into the knockout stages, and
And he's the Antoine Dupont World Player of the Year. Would have been.
Yeah, and you'd probably have egg in your face if Toulouse went on and won a round 16 quarterfinal, semi-final, final. If they did that, he would have been there. So I still think even in the games, that Munster game, Leinster game, he was brilliant. Aldred, I think, has been exceptional for La Rochelle.
So we'll
and
see.
then the other three
are still all in it. Go on.
You should, I'm sure you'll still find a way of giving the award to Peter O'Mahony.
It's a public vote.
I will, or the other judges.
Everyone. It's the right call.
What are you suggesting there?
That your rugby.
Right.
Right.
If Munster had won, he could have got in there with the performance against Toulouse. But I think, look, the front runners here are. If La Rochelle win the final against Leinster, which is a tall order, Gregory Aldred
is going to win it.
You would imagine. Yeah. Well, he might and he might not. If it's a very tight game, last score of the game where La Rochelle win it when some of the other players have been exceptional.
Well, look,
but they're great players, and I think it's a great. I just wish he was there in 2008 when I had probably a good season when Munster win it. I might have been in the running, but unfortunately they only started in 2010.
Right. Always just a little bit ahead of your time, Quinny. That's the problem.
Owen, you'd have given it to me in 2008, wouldn't you?
100%. Did you not get it that year?
Thank you.
If so, that's an absolute crime.
Maybe Off the Ball can do up one for 2008.
That's what we'll do. We'll retrospectively, we'll grandfather one in. Quinny, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Thanks, guys.
Alan Quinlan's combined 15. A few talking points in it. 9:38 this morning. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Burr Buck says, Ger has the guns out. It's officially summer.
The guns are always there. They're just never visible. It's good to have them back.
Yeah, they need to slowly emerge from the calcification of 2 decades. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day.